Deanna Palm, President CEO of the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, and this is the Small Business Solution Series workshop. Thank you all for joining us. Special thanks to our sponsor, our series sponsor, Hawthorne Farms Athletic Club, and we have Dr. Heidi Sivers-Boyce with us here today to provide our moment of wellness. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you. I'll just keep it nice and short. We can watch a little let's see, welcome video here while people continue to join.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Heidi Sivers-Boyce, President.
Can you hear that okay? You're muted, Deanna.
Sorry, a little bit louder would be great.
Okay, let me see if I can get that louder.
Of Hawthorne Farm Athletic Club. My family-owned business is proud to sponsor this Washington County Small Business Solution Series. This group has been invaluable to my team and I through the recent challenges, and we are so grateful for you. And we love any opportunity to provide support, information, and resources in return. This quick wellness minute is just Hawthorne Farm Athletic Club's opportunity to remind and encourage you to make sure you are putting as much care and effort into taking care of yourself and your well-being as you are into taking care of your business. One of the most common things we hear as a club during the month of December is, I don't have time. But when you are extra busy, routine is extra interrupted, or you're extra overwhelmed, that's exactly when your body needs healthy care the most. Whether it's making sure you're getting your heart rate up often enough through a class or a weightlifting session, or whether you're slowing that heart rate down after the day's stresses through a nourishing swim, restorative yoga, or healthy social connection. Make sure you are taking care of your physical health this month and every month. And if you could use any support in doing so, please let us know. Hawthorne Farm Athletic Club is a wellness community located out of a beautiful facility right across the street from the Washington County Chamber, near the Hillsborough Airport and the Hawthorne Farm Map Stop. We'd love to connect with you, and thank you.
Heidi, thank you so much for your sponsorship. Really appreciate it. And thank you so much for that wellness moment, especially during this holiday season where things can always get just a little bit, amped up and a little time crunched. And hopefully everyone's going to be able to enjoy the holiday, and keeping in mind there's always an opportunity, and you should always take the opportunity to care for yourself first. With that, it is my pleasure to welcome and introduce Matt Rouse with Hook SEO and a whole bunch of other things that I always, I don't forget, but I don't know all their formal names. But I know, Matt, you are going to take care of that. But we're excited to hear from you. Speaking of amping up, we're going to be amping up our LinkedIn profiles for both ourselves and for our businesses. And super important if you're recruiting employees are now interviewing you, and LinkedIn is one of the first places that they go. So Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, and so I will be co-presenting today with Holly Jackson, who we collaborate with, who is also one of the hosts of the Business Builder Throwdown show, which you can find at businessbuilderthrowdown.com or on YouTube. And I am also the host of the Digital Marketing Masters podcast, the 7-Minute Jabs podcast, as well as the author of 4 books as of yesterday. We just released a book. Holly and myself and Scott Smith released a short executive summary book that's 33 pages long called Isolation, the Health and Wellness Business Killer, which is specifically for entrepreneurs in the health and wellness space, and the 6 most common problems that they have and some ideas for solutions around those. So LinkedIn, super important, just like you were saying, for both employers and as well as if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, a practitioner, whatever it is that you're using LinkedIn for. And we're going to kind of split it up into 2 parts here. Holly's going to talk about how to improve your profile. And then I'm going to talk about things like content generation and ways that you could get more connections and more attention to your profile. So Holly, do you want to introduce yourself and then we'll go from there?
Sure. And if I go on mute, I have a little tickle in my throat, ironically, since we're talking about health right now. So my apologies in advance. My name is Holly Jean Jackson. I am a holistic business coach, which means that I help business owners on a health level as well as life coaching. And I have over 15 years of business experience. People always ask, what does holistic business coaching mean? So I also am the host for the Inspiration Contagion podcast, and obviously co-host with Matt and Scott for the Business Builder Throwdown. And my first solo book will be published this coming January. It's called Inspiration Contagion: Health Secrets for Raving Success. So I'm really excited to be here because Matt and I wouldn't know each other without LinkedIn. So how appropriate that we're covering this topic today. And I'm going to
True.
start. Go ahead.
I said true.
Are we able to share our screen? Can you enable screen sharing for me, Deanna? Once she has that going, I'll show my LinkedIn profile and walk you through the most essential parts of your profile. Okay, so can you see my screen? I just need to, okay, great. Awesome. So the first thing we like to look at with a website or your LinkedIn profile is what we call above the fold. So when you're looking either on your mobile device or on your computer screen, this is what people see first. Their first impression is at the top. So one thing people really don't think about for LinkedIn, which they really should, is this banner at the top here. So for me, I have my business title and tagline because a lot of people don't know what holistic business coaching is. And this clearly defines what that is, along with several different images of myself, because another piece of feedback for my ideal audience is that I need to come across as authentic and approachable. And when all of my pictures are professional and too polished, that can be off-putting. So I have some casual images in here as well. So as I'm speaking through this, I hope you're hearing, I know my audience really well. I know my ideal client really well. And the banner image is specifically with that in mind. Another example of something you could do with your banner image would be define the problem you solve. So for example, I help you publish your book and become a bestseller in 90 days. That's great. Like, that's solving a problem. It's also sharing what the solution is and specifically what you do in a tangible period of time. So if you have a powerful statement like that, you want to put that in your banner so that people can find you in your business. And it's really interesting when people are transitioning from the corporate world to running their own business, it's a very different profile game. If you're in corporate and you're looking for a job, you're going to have the kind of job you're looking for, the skill set you're bringing to the table. But if you're a business owner, you need to define the problem you're solving and really attract your ideal audience. Another kind of ninja tip, which we like to give on the Throwdown, is your profile image needs to be very friendly, very current, and very updated. And if you can, you want to have and incorporate your brand colors in both your banner and your profile picture. So for example, my website has a lot of purple and pink. So you can see I have purple and pink in this dress. So when I did my photo shoot, I made sure I was incorporating brand colors and being really cohesive.
Hey, Holly.
So yeah.
One quick thing to add there. It is a good idea most of the time if your profile picture is the same on other platforms as it is as on your LinkedIn one. And then when somebody goes to look you up, like if they're trying to tag you in something on Twitter or Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and then they, do put at Holly Jackson or whatever, and they see the photo come up and they go, oh yeah, okay, I got the right person, and so they recognize you on the other platforms as well.
Yes. Yeah. You want to kind of find your main image. And you can use the same thing for Instagram, all of the places, but also for speaking topics, for example, if they ask for your bio image. So the next really important piece above the fold is your title and this little description beneath it. So for me, you can see I have my name plus my title, and you can do that. And if it's more than one title, you can do that and separate it with a line. But this is really important right here. So I'm specifically calling out who my target audience is. So I'm helping health and wellness business owners and entrepreneurs, and I'm helping them with overwhelm and burnout while attracting clients. You can also add some taglines here, your location, and all of that. I would say the most important thing, if you take nothing away about your profile today, is to really dial in this banner image and this description right here. If you get those two things, like, that's going to be a huge improvement on your profile. If we dig in a little bit further down here, another thing that's really important, I'm trying to see if I scroll by it because you can see the dashboard. So you have your featured thing here. So if you have a piece of social credibility, meaning an article or something of high value that makes you credible in your industry, you want to link that as a featured thing. So for me, I have my Yahoo Finance article of the 10 best female business coaches, because I made the top 5. So that shows credibility in my field and industry, so that if somebody goes to my profile because they're considering working with me or hiring me as their coach, they can see, oh, okay, well, she's recognized in a credible magazine for this thing. You can also add other media elements and scheduling links as well. So you want to utilize the featured tab for anything for credibility or your lead magnet or anything you're trying to get people to click on to know more about you. Below that, Matt's going to cover this, so I'm not going to talk about activity because he's going to cover the content pieces. But after that, you have this about section. Now, there are different viewpoints on how you can use the about section. Personally, I like to share a personal story, especially for business owners, so that it's authentic and people can connect with you. And then I like to call out who I help and how I can help. And I have a gift for them and how they can connect with me. So I actually worked with a ghostwriter on this because I felt like it was really important to get right. And people do read this if they want to learn more about you before scheduling a call with you. So you can play with this framework of having that story, who you're helping, how you can help, and having a gift and contact information. Below that, we have experience. So you can actually create very easily a page for your company. Now, I will say a ninja tip that Matt will cover tied to content is if you're going to post things on LinkedIn, the content side of this, and you have a business page, I highly recommend posting to your personal page and the business page. It's really hard to get followers for a business page unless you're a huge corporate entity. So it's great to have that because it looks credible and real. And you can have, as you scale your business, your employees can have your logo for your company there. So you want to create that company page and have it as a listing for experience. But if you're posting content, post it to personal as well as your business page. In here, you can see I have more than one title. So I'm the CEO of my company, but I'm also a coach. I actually need to remove the virtual CIO because I'm not offering that anymore, but speaker and podcast host. So oftentimes when we're small business owners, we wear many hats, and you want to share all of those skill sets in the experience level because it affects certain things in the algorithm and the search capability of LinkedIn. So you want to make sure you have that dialed in, especially if you're a speaker or a podcast host up here. And then down here, again, if you look at the description, I'm sharing again the problem statement of how I help people and what I'm providing in terms of their problem and solution and how to find me on my website. And then you can just see I have other historical experience and background. Another section that people often forget about, but can be important depending on the industry that you're in, is listing any credentials that you have. So sometimes I get people that ask, okay, well, great, you're a business coach. Where are your certifications from? What is your background? And so for me, I have health coaching certification, life coaching, but also many years of experience in the business world, which is why it's super important I list all of that experience below so people can see that, so it's credible. But the other important section is recommendations. Just like Google has these reviews for our Google My Business account and for Yelp and all these other places where you get reviews for our business, it's equally important to have recommendations on your LinkedIn profile. So if you have clients that are doing testimonials for your website, ask them also to do a recommendation on your LinkedIn profile, because people do look at this and it helps them find you in the future. So I think those are all of my big points on the profile. Matt, did I miss anything?
I think that pretty much covers it.
Great.
There's, I think probably the most important area is the featured content. And that's the thing that people skip the most often. Or
Yeah.
they, don't know that it's even a thing. When somebody goes to your profile, that is essentially beyond the images at the top and your name and title. The featured content is the first thing that they see after that. And if you don't have it filled in, that section just doesn't appear. So it'll just go straight to your education and experience. And usually, especially if it's something like a video or an article about you or something like that, a link to a publication you have, a book, maybe you make some kind of art, your business won an award. Those are the things that you want in that featured section, because that's the stuff that's going to make somebody go, oh, I have to work with Abby. Look at this. So that's the reason that you want to put stuff in there, which kind of brings us around to content, right? Creating content on LinkedIn is how you're going to get that attention to your profile. And we can go forward with that, but I wanted to maybe give us a little quick minute if anybody has some questions. Yeah, Holly was just going to put that in to add it in the chat.
It's like I could read your mind.
I know, we've been doing too many shows together now. So
if you guys have any questions on LinkedIn profile before we dive into content, that would be great. Let's do that now.
So I have a question about profiles.
Okay, go.
So I do something different with my profile. On my profile, instead of having a tagline after my title, I have the wording that essentially says, I will not DM you to sell anything. And since I added that to my tagline, I have a nearly 100% success rate at connecting with people. And then after I connect with them, I don't try to sell them anything by direct message. And it works really well when I say I'm not going to do that, and then I don't do it. I think one of the biggest problems people have with LinkedIn is they're constantly getting spammed by people saying, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff all day long. And that's not what we're here for, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And it works really well, because when we connected, I noticed that and I was like, oh, cool. This is refreshing, because I get at least 20 requests every 3 days, and they're usually selling me something. And even if they have a warm introduction, I can tell they're doing automation and adding me into some kind of drip thing on LinkedIn. So that's unfortunate. So I see a question from Abby. Let's start with hers. If you're just starting a new business, what are your suggestions for featured items? So Abby, one ninja tip that Matt actually gave me that works really well is to have a calendar link for doing coffee. So coffee with Abby, like having a virtual Java. People like coffee, and it's casual. It's easy to connect. It doesn't seem salesy. And if they like what your background is about, what your tagline is about, it's a great way to connect. So you could have that link in your featured profile. You could also have your website or a blog article that's related to something that could help your ideal client with the problem that they're trying to solve. So I would start testing things in your markets if you're new in business to see what's landing. And you could change it every 30 to 90 days to see what is actually people are clicking on your profile. And then Matt, anything to add to that before I go to Mark's question?
No, I think, I took a quick look at your profile, Abby, and, it looks pretty good, and your company page looks good. You may want to add a little bit more information. Like it says that your kind of sub headline or your subheading is creative nerd, which is clever, but it's not very descriptive. So you might want to add something to that so that people know what it is you actually do.
Awesome. Okay, so Mark asked, is there a cost to creating a business profile on LinkedIn? No, there is not. The only thing you pay for on LinkedIn is, I'm forgetting the names of them because I haven't used the paid version.
Sales
recently.
Navigator.
Thank you. Sales Navigator, and there's an HR one for hiring. So unless you are not satisfied with search for the free version of LinkedIn and you're doing some really heavy sales outreach, everything on LinkedIn is free. And ninja tip, you can do their 30-day trial of premium or Sales Navigator and give it a go if you're trying to do kind of a new launch or you do some market research and then just go back to the free version. And they will actually reopen that up to you about every 6 months. So that's occasionally I do that for statistics and more market research. Abby said, I have a business page, but I can't get the logo to show up on my profile in the header. I know mine initially had that issue.
I can see it from mine, by the way.
Yeah, it could be that maybe your browser isn't showing it or it's not updating on your side. But I know when I created my business page, I had to play with some of the settings. But the fact that Matt can see it, it should be visible for others. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Abby, is it your personal page or your business page? Personal page. So
It's,
the look,
up in the corner where you can put a link to the company that you work for or own or whatever. I had set up the logo for my business and the page, but in my personal profile page, the logo doesn't show up in that header corner.
Okay, so there is a specific way you have to set that up, and you can Google a video for that. But I had the same problem, and I can't remember specifically how I fixed it, but there's a specific way you set it up. If we can find the video while Matt's sharing content stuff, I can see if I can find a video on that, unless Matt knows how to fix that right now. All right, looking through the other questions here. Oh, so where Matt has, I won't DM you. You guys should look at his LinkedIn profile. Matt, why don't you drop your LinkedIn profile in the chat so people can see that?
Yeah, I added it right there after that.
Great, front and center. See, you just read my mind.
Jump on it. Get it done.
And you should connect with Matt and I so we can see your profiles.
Holly's got a lot more followers than me, though. I only have about 1,800.
Yeah, I have like over 4,000, almost 5,000.
so
then we can talk about the LinkedIn Creator Program.
Yeah,
which we'll get to.
I just had a quick question about the sales upgrade, where is that the one where it says if you want to see everybody that's viewed your profile, then you can pay. That's the additional piece of it. Okay. And you're thinking that's, I don't even know what it costs because I've never really researched it, but of the taking advantage of the free version, getting what information you want, and then getting out.
Well, so the reason I have so many followers is I did a LinkedIn masterclass for 6 months, and I specifically was trying to grow my followers and connections. So I was more intentional and I spent a lot of time doing that. So I want to say I grew my connections by probably 2,000 in 6 months from doing that. But I was paying for Sales Navigator at the time. So there are times where it makes sense to do Sales Navigator. And then there are times where it's just not necessary. So unless you're trying to connect with more than the average amount of people on LinkedIn, or you want to do more filtered and in-depth sales market research, I don't feel like you need to use Sales Navigator. But if you want more information, it is valuable. And there are certain things, especially when you're looking for a job opportunity, where it pulls you to the top of the pile when you have that active.
And I guess my other question is the difference between friends and and connections. I mean, obviously LinkedIn is different platform in terms of its, more professional facing. And, I get all kinds of, connect with me, people I have no idea who they are. And so I don't really scrutinize that a lot. I'm just like, sure. And so I've got a lot of LinkedIn, connections of people I've never met and probably never will. And so what is the value of that? I mean, am I
So-
just sitting back, not taking advantage of all these wonderful people that I should be actively connecting with?
No, so there's like a lot of different schools of thought around this, but the mastermind that I did basically said, unless you are just vehemently opposed to connecting with somebody because they were super spammy in their initial message or something in their tagline offended you, you should connect with them. Because the reality is the more connections you have when you're posting content, which Matt will get to in a minute, people will see it, more people will see it because they're connected with you. And then once your content trends to a certain level, it opens to the second circle of connections and so on and so forth. So if your initial pool of connections is larger, it amplifies your impact for your content getting out there. So that's one school of thought. And that's the school of thought that I use. And I have people that are drip campaigning me through LinkedIn. It's really irritating, but at the same time, like I'm getting out to more people. The other school of thought is that you should not connect to people unless you've had an initial conversation and you want to really know them, because you're using this as, I guess, I'm trying to think of those little old things of the paper, the business cards.
Rolodex.
Yeah, the Rolodex, like they're your Rolodex.
How old are we, Matt? We knew Rolodex.
So you're thinking of like your Rolodex. So if you want to use that approach, that's different. But if you're really trying to use LinkedIn from a marketing perspective, then you just want to add those connections.
There is a kind of a third school of thought, I guess maybe we can call it, which is the system that I use for connecting with people. Is I connect under essentially two categories. People who I think I may do business with or may want a product or service that we have at some point in the future. And then people who are local business owners to wherever I am doing work. So like I've gained, since I moved to Nova Scotia in the last year, I've gained about 250 Nova Scotia based followers from different nonprofits and businesses around Nova Scotia. And then I had a business that we were doing some work with, and there was kind of some news related information that happened in their town. So I made a press release for it. I shared it on LinkedIn, and 400 or 500 people saw it, many of them from Nova Scotia, and a few of them shared that information around because they're also, it's locally relevant. So there's ways that you can use it for public relations. There's ways that you can use it if maybe there's something that you're interested in that may not necessarily be someone you're going to sell something to, but maybe something that you want to buy something from potentially in the future is another good way. So yeah, I don't think you can have too many connections unless those connections are people who are going to be spamming your comments or putting a bunch of garbage, sending you crap messages, whatever, so you can kind of find a happy medium most of the time. Does that make sense?
Questions.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about content. So before we do that, how many of you here, and you can just like put up your hand or hit yes in the chat or something, you want to use LinkedIn to generate leads for your business or your organization? Okay.
A
So
lot of
that's
people.
probably the majority. So the easiest way to generate leads on LinkedIn is to create and share information so that people will see your name and your picture coming up over and over with that information that's relevant to what you do. And then when they post something about a problem that you solve or something related, you can comment on it and say, something, it really depends what it is, of course, but when you comment, they will be familiar with who you are from seeing your posts, and then they will read it. Or the same thing happens if you go to direct message someone. you are 100 times more likely to get business from someone if they've been interacting with you in your posts. Cold calling, essentially on LinkedIn, cold DMing someone is really, really unlikely to come out with a sale, right? I mean, unless you're giving away food to people who are starving, direct messaging someone is really unlikely to get them to open their wallet. So the content is the way to go. And one thing about content, and I know everyone says this about every, social media platform there is, which is a whole nother, presentation. The difference between two platforms, LinkedIn and TikTok, against every other social media platform. LinkedIn and TikTok will show your posts to people you're not connected with. That's the difference. If you try and do that with Facebook, you're going to have to open your wallet and buy some ads first, or they will not show it to someone else. I mean, yes, you can. It's a 1 in a million shot, but it's possible, but it's really unlikely. Instagram, still pretty unlikely these days, especially if it's something business related, because the algorithm is going to see that you're selling something or that you're, have a service or a lead into a product or service. And the algorithm is automatically going to kill the reach of your post. And then it's going to ask you if you want to boost it, right? The system is set up to make sure that you can't do business on Facebook or Instagram and other platforms unless you pay them. So LinkedIn and TikTok, but when we were not talking about TikTok today, LinkedIn will allow you to get content out to people without having to pay for ads. That's the reason you want to use it. And content on LinkedIn, you have a lot of options, pretty much the same options as you would have through Facebook or Instagram, right? You have video, live video, photos, text only posts. A couple things that are cool you can do with LinkedIn that you can't do on other sites. You can put in PDFs that people can scroll through. Cool thing I've seen recently is you make a PDF and make all the pages in your PDF square, and then people can slide over like a carousel through the pages. That's a neat one. It's really good if you have, like, say you're like a car dealership, or you have artwork or something where you want to show all the products in a carousel. You can put them in a PDF. You can put a whole bunch of pictures in at once. Another interesting thing that I've seen is if you're trying to get employees or collaboration partners or something like that, where you're not necessarily selling something, is to make a promotional video for that reason and post that. And man, if you make a good video about why it's an excellent place to work at your business, not only will people that share that, because they'll, oh, this is cool. My buddy, Deanna at the chamber is looking for somebody to work there. You guys should check out this video about what a wonderful organization it is, right? Also, your other employees, as long as they also think it's a good place to work, will share that, right? Hey, come join our team. Look at this video of what we do where I work, right? So there's advantages that you can do. Videos and things are not just for sales presentations, right? If you start creating content on a regular basis, and regular meaning a couple times a week, up to as much as, I post probably 10 times a week on LinkedIn right now, but that might be excessive for most people. If you post content on a regular basis, if it's video content you post on a regular basis, you will be able to apply for LinkedIn Live, which will allow you to do live video on LinkedIn from the app. And a trick that we just recently learned from Scott Smith from our show is that if you use a program like Squadcast, you can bypass that system and you can have live video sent to LinkedIn without being approved for LinkedIn Live. So if that's something you want to do, that's a trick to get around the system. I don't know if it's really getting around it or not, or if they did it intentionally, but it's hard to say. If you have content that you post on a regular basis, whether that is writing, just text posts or images or, a mix of stuff, and you start to get some more followers, you get engagement on those posts, meaning people are commenting on them, and then you're having conversation back and forth, the LinkedIn editorial team will approve you as a LinkedIn creator. And if you're a LinkedIn creator, then instead of a connect button on your profile, it changes to a follow button. And people click the follow button, and then they can follow you, but they can't message you unless you connect with them. So it gives you the advantage of being able to have lots of people see your stuff, but not get spammed all the time. The other thing you can do as a creator is that it will allow your posts to get out to more people more easily. So the algorithm kind of loosens the purse strings a little bit and lets your stuff get out into the world. I think it's a good idea to keep a level of professionalism on LinkedIn around the content you're posting unless it's relevant to your industry. So if you sell church pews for a living, it is fine to talk about religion on LinkedIn. But if you are a gravel and paving contractor, it's probably not the best idea to talk about religion on LinkedIn, right? Keep it relevant to your business. Same thing with commenting, because other people who are connected to you are going to see your comments, because LinkedIn is going to say, Holly Jackson just commented on this post. And I go and Holly's saying something about how she doesn't like puppies, then maybe me and Holly aren't going to do business anymore, right? Not that I'm saying that she doesn't like puppies, but just as an example. So you want to make sure that you're professional in your commenting as well. Also, when you are creating your content, you kind of want to set the bar for how professional looking your content is based on your company, right? So you wouldn't see, somebody from Nike or Apple, posting a video out of their kitchen with their dirty dishes behind them on the counter and that kind of thing, right? You have to have the quality level has to match your business. However, if you're a single mom running a business from home and you post a video from your kitchen with the kids running around, that's perfectly acceptable, right? So again, it has to be relevant to your business and relevant to the quality needs to be relevant. If you have a large professional organization, you should not be on a crappy webcam with no lights, and you should have a quality video stream if you're going to do video, or quality photographs. You shouldn't be using stock photography all the time unless you have to. And one more quick thing about stock photography: the algorithm knows that it's stock photography, so it is not going to show your post to as many people. And I've tested this extensively. I've taken a stock photo of a man and a small child and posted the content. Then I took a picture of me and my daughter and posted the same content. And the one with the stock photo got shown 63 times to my connections. And the one with me and my daughter was shown 1,330 times to my connections. So it is a massive difference. So you want to have photos that you take, preferably uploading from your device. If you take it with your cell phone, upload it through the LinkedIn app, write your content on there. You can always edit it. And I'd say that's about it for content right now. I mean, we can always delve into the world of what types of content to create, but I think we should maybe take a few more questions first.
Matt, one example that
Sure.
folks might be familiar with is Elizabeth Case and Yellow Job Consulting. She does a really great job on LinkedIn of providing sort of regular content that's helpful, like tips and tricks and things like that. So that might be somebody to look up to get a sense of, how to provide a benefit to their followers by providing tips and tricks on a regular basis and news they can use.
Absolutely. There is a lady out there, her name escapes me right now, but I'll look it up in a few minutes and put it in the chat, that she runs a promotional printing company that they're specifically work on paper folded products. And she does these little videos like every week where she has some little thing that she's like origamiing it into something, and it turns into a card, thank you card you send your customer, and they open it up and a house pops out the top or something, right? Like, it's really clever. But she has like 100,000 connections on LinkedIn from doing her little paper folding thing. and it drives literally hundreds of thousands of dollars of business to their company. So if you can find a good way to generate content that other people love, that's relevant, then it is a real business driver. Holly, what do you think about sharing other people's content regularly?
Other people's content? Well, I think it's really helpful because, so like, for example, Matt and Scott will post about one of the episodes we have coming live, and I will reshare it with my own spin on it to share it with my audience. So what that does is it means it's sharing not just to my first connections, but to Matt and Scott's first connections. So it's easy, it's more powerful. The other thing too is even outside of people you're collaborating with, when you reshare their stuff, it builds that reciprocity. So if you have people that you're trying to target to work with or collaborate with, it's great to reshare their content and repost it as long as it's aligned with your brand, because it shows that you're supporting them and it shows that you're adding more value to their network and their collaboration. So I think it's really great to do that and also to engage on their content. So like, for example, we have guests on our show and I make it an intentional thing where I look at their content and reshare it where I can, or I engage on their content because they've collaborated with us on our show.
So that strategy is called content curation. And I think the best way to do content curation is to, like Holly said, sharing either things from your connections, like people you know. But if you're going to share things outside of that, if it's news articles or, maybe it's from some industry related site, or another, organization similar to yours, whatever that is, adding your own spin onto it is a really good idea. And another thing that you can do is tag people in it who you think would be interested in that content. So let's say there's something coming up and it's going to be something that I think, say, Beth is going to be super interested in. So I'm like, okay, I saw this. They're going to do a remake of The Office with all their original characters, and one of her friends is in the show. So I'm going to tag Beth in it. Right. And then Beth can be like, oh my God, I love that guy. He's, my friend when I was in school, so this is a way that you can add people in, and then they're going to comment on that. And then you can have a conversation about it, right? Which is the whole point, is to have a conversation and get people talking and getting to know people, just like you do at networking, just like coming to a function like this, right? So get people to know you, know how you can help them, and build that network, because the network is the net worth, as they say.
Well, and it's interesting, Matt shares that curation perspective, because when I did the masterclass on LinkedIn, they created these things called pods. Now, I have to say, like, there are certain things you have to be careful what you're doing on LinkedIn. So you don't want to like join a LinkedIn pod because it can create an issue. But the whole idea behind it is to choose people that are aligned to your brand, where you intentionally agree to comment right away on that post. So, I mean, Matt and Scott and I do this, and we're not really in a pod, but because we're collaborating, it just makes sense. If Scott posts something or Matt posts something, I'm going to reshare it or like it or comment on it, because I want it to be more visible because we're collaborating. So you can do the same thing without joining a pod. And just be intentional with who you're commenting on, because the more comments you get right away after you create your post, and the more likes and views that you get, the more visibility you'll have for that post.
Do we have any other questions about LinkedIn profiles or content? LinkedIn groups. Well, they've started to clean up the spam problem with LinkedIn groups. I think LinkedIn groups are going to be kind of like LinkedIn has always been around. Well, I shouldn't say always, but I mean, it's been around for a really long time. And everybody has kind of, well, I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people, especially in the professional space, have stopped or limited their use of other apps because of the obvious problems that those apps have had, like Facebook and Instagram, right? So they've come to get away from the spamming and the problems that were in those groups, and you know, the negativity on Facebook and things like that. So I think groups will be a thing on LinkedIn eventually. There's really a tough call to say, like, can I run a successful LinkedIn group? Because I know almost no one who has done it. But there's lots of successful Facebook groups, but I also see lots of Facebook groups that are kind of going down the toilets now. So, because they changed the privacy rules again and let anyone join your group unless you convert it to private. So check your Facebook groups, people. Yeah, so I think the LinkedIn group is gonna work. One thing that we did that's kind of interesting that you might want to check out is we have a small, like a paid membership group for people who are in health and wellness businesses. And we do like a weekly coaching call. And we wanted a group so that people could talk back and forth between the calls. And we actually set it up on an app called Marco Polo. And Marco Polo is free. And it's like a video messaging app. So I just hold my phone up and I go da 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 da, and I hit the button and it sends it to the other people in the group, and then they can message back with their video. And we've been using that pretty successfully so far. So that's an option for you instead of a group on Facebook or LinkedIn. There's also a place called Mighty Networks, which you may want to check out, which is essentially like a paid Facebook where you only give access to the people you want in your kind of Facebook group. But it's very similar to Facebook because it was actually created by one of Facebook's previous engineering leads. It's called Mighty Networks.
So another point is maybe not starting your own LinkedIn group, but I have found being part of LinkedIn groups really beneficial depending on the group. So like if you went to a university, joining alumni groups is great. Joining professional groups is great. And so with my book launch, I shared out that I was building my book launch team. So I'm not really selling, I'm sharing, like, I'm publishing this book, I'm trying to get more people to join my launch team. And I actually had more people than I expected because it's cold outreach to some degree, but because you're part of the group, especially as an alumni, it's a little different. It's kind of warm. And I had more people respond than I expected. So that was successful. I wouldn't say it would work for selling something, but for building visibility, I think it can be really, really effective. I'm trying to look at this question here. How did you get members for your group? Matt, do you want to get that one?
That is a big topic. So
that's like a whole different session, like marketing.
Yeah. So I have a 4-foot by 3-foot whiteboard on the wall of my office that has 110 different ways to try and get somebody into a membership group. And the idea, I think, with membership groups is very similar to events. The problem with an event is somebody goes, oh my God, I need to get 100 people into this room. And I only know 2 ways to get people into this room, which means each of those ways needs to get 50 people into this room. But what you should instead be doing is finding 10 ways to get 10 people into the room, right? It's way easier to get a little bit of people from each different source than it is to have one source generate all of the people that you need for an event, whether it's a business gathering, you know, a function, a charity gala, whatever it is, right? So it's way easier to have lots and lots of little things that all feed into it rather than just trying to, you know, pull everyone out of one Facebook group or, you know, a LinkedIn group or whatever the way that you're doing it is.
It could, but then it might be giving away all the secrets. Abby,
That's right.
I'm just kidding. I mean, basically, it's people overcomplicate funnels and marketing. You just play with what works best for you. Events like this help us. You know, I have a Healthy Holidays event coming up with 20 other speakers. I think we're expecting 2,000 people. So we're using the isolation book lead magnet to hopefully build more people that join our mastermind network and get more exposure. I'm also using that to build my book launch team. And then you have your R3 email list. So collaborating with other people helps you amplify your marketing impact because we have 3 email lists that we can work from. And then there's simple things. So when we launched our mastermind, I found this really effective thing where if you're on an iPhone texting another iPhone, there's a little microphone and you can send an audio message. And I didn't have time to call everybody, but I made a list of, I think, 100 people, and I sent them a personal audio message inviting them to our mastermind. I did the same thing for my book launch, because if I just texted them, I wouldn't get a response because people just, whatever.
Yeah, you
But
can do
if
that on
I,
LinkedIn also.
yeah, you can do it on LinkedIn as well. I did it mostly for my contact list, and eventually actually I went through all of them. So if you want to know how to do a book launch, it's just a lot of consistent work. And I think I reached out to, oh my God, like 5,000 people individually, 5,000. So
Yeah, a lot of times it's kind of the hand-to-hand combat to get people at the start for a group, especially when you're trying to get people, whether it's even if you have an existing office, business or group or something, but you have like a new offering, like a new product offering, or maybe a new course or a new event or a new group, whatever that is. You essentially have to like sit down and have a conversation with each person you think is the most likely to get in there. And once you get a few people in there, then you can start saying things like, okay, we got 5 people in this group. There's only 20 that can take it, right? So it's already 25% sold out, and then you can start using kind of, the fear of missing out and all the things that you can do. You could like, we have to have this group filled by January, because January 1st, everybody's New Year's resolution is to get in shape. So if you don't sign up for this group now, you're not going to have a chance to when January 1st comes along, right? And so you can do those kinds of things that can help get people into the courses or classes or groups or whatever it is that you're trying to motivate people into action for. And as long as what you're doing is, authentically trying to help people, I don't like using the word authentic because people throw it around all over the place these days, but you need to be helping someone, right? I don't say to somebody, let me do all this work for your business and you pay me a bunch of money and then you're not going to get any phone calls. That's not a good business strategy, right? A good business strategy is I can help fill your company with leads and sales, and then you pay me money and then we'll do it again, right? That's a much better business strategy. So you want to make sure that you can fulfill whatever the goal is that you're trying to reach, or the class, or whatever that thing is, and that there is no harm. And honestly, it's really up to you to get those people into your service, right? Or using your service, because you don't know what else there is out there that they're going to use, right? It's very similar to networking, right? Like I can honestly say, go to the Washington County Chamber of Commerce event, right? Their networking event. There's good people there that you could meet and talk to. But if I just say, go to any Chamber of Commerce, right? It's hit or miss. I don't know who's going to be there, right? So you want to make sure that when you're helping people with something that and that's going to make it a lot easier to get people into the group, right? Whether it's a group, an event, a function. I know I kind of went on a tangent there a little bit.
So Matt, I have one final question. So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm kind of a liker as opposed to a looker. So I like a lot of stuff just because I scroll through and it's just my way of saying yes, recognition. Is it helpful at all? Am I doing anything with that, or just salving my own guilty conscience of not taking time to write more and do more?
Liking definitely helps. It makes a difference. It opens it up so more people can see it. The more views and more likes a post has, the more it's going to open up to additional circles of influence on LinkedIn. So it's helpful. It's better if you can comment. So let's say you see one that you really like, I'd stop and add a quick comment.
Yeah, popping a little comment in there, tagging somebody is a good one. I really like tagging people in something I think that they would be interested in. And that seems to be a really good engagement signal also on LinkedIn. It's like if Holly posts an article or something, and I think it's helpful to someone, I'll tag them in it and be like, oh, hey, you should read this article that Holly wrote. And then that article generally is going to get shown to more people than one of her other posts, because it's now been engaged with. Somebody wanted to share it with someone else. That's a good signal to LinkedIn. And that's really what getting content to spread is about. Having something go quote viral these days is nearly impossible, right? It's a moonshot. It just doesn't happen really. So what you need to do is have more content that reaches a lot of people rather than try to come up with the one thing that's gonna like reach 1 million people, because that's super unlikely.
Excellent. Any one last question or comment from anyone? I don't, while we were sitting here talking, I've been looking at my DMs from LinkedIn going, yeah, that's super spammy. I just kind of looked at it as an annoyance, but it's like, oh my God, it's super spammy.
They're
So
pretty
that's,
shameless.
I think that's a real trick, is to learn how to connect, make really authentic connections. And I think, Holly, to your point, is sometimes it just takes a lot of work, right? And intentionality with that work, as opposed to, I'm going to send this message to all of these people that are connected with. Again, I would say I don't even know how many connections I have, which is probably not a good thing. Because I mean, everybody that comes, connects with me, I'm like, okay, I don't scrutinize very well. So I have a lot of connections of people I've never met. And so sending out a message, but I think the reverse is receiving that message with somebody I just connect with. And it's kind of like, oh, there's a bit of disappointment, right? If you connect with them and then immediately you get that sort of already automated, hey, Deanna, like we're best friends. So again, I think the whole putting yourself in the shoes of the receiver, right? And saying how you would feel and making sure that you're thinking about and thinking through these things, and always, it's your brand, right? So you really need to tend to it as if it's, your brand every single time you interact on any one of these social media networks. So Matt, Holly, any final words?
Well, yeah, since you guys asked how you grow the groups, I wanted to tell you about the Business Builder Ninja community, not to sell you, but in case you know people that need to hear about this. What we're doing, I know, is super valuable. And as we head into the holidays, people are really stressed out. So if you know anybody in the health and wellness space, or a business owner that's really struggling and feeling isolated and alone, we'd love for you to point them in the direction of our Business Builder Ninja community. I put the link in the chat there. If anybody here would gain value from that as well, you're welcome to come and check it out. We can have you come in for office hours for free 1 week and see what you think. And we're open to your feedback too. That's how we do this. We grow together. And if you guys are working on something you're trying to grow, reach out to us on LinkedIn, and we're happy to share strategies that work as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And since you mentioned the chat, please, we'll take this moment to save the chat. Lots of really rich resources in the chat, so don't let that get away from you. Thank you again, Matt and Holly. Wishing you both a very happy holiday season. All of our participants a very happy holiday season. Heidi, thank you and Hawthorne Farm Athletic Club for your sponsorship and support of the Small Business Solutions Series workshop. We will be back here December 15th at 10 o'clock, where we will reveal the results of our latest State of Business survey that we've been conducting, which will give us a sense of how things are going out there. I think this was probably prior to the new announcement about this new variant that is coming. So that'll be interesting to compare and contrast. We're also going to try to look at past surveys that we did at the I think we did our first one around April or May of 2020. So kind of right after the shutdown and the beginning of a reopening, and get a sense of how business is feeling, and comparing and contrasting, a year and a half or so later where we're at. And now it just kind of seems like we're right back in the soup here, doesn't it? Wah, wah. So to leave on a happy note, we do have a great holiday season coming up, and I hope you all stay safe and have a great, enjoyable time. Take care. Thank you so much.
See you, everybody.
Bye.